Welcome everybody to another episode of Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. I'm here with Coach Cornelia, and she is
Still in Denmark.
still in Denmark, but she's getting ready to head to Romania.
Hmm.
Are you using a train again?
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
gonna be a very long trip.
Oh. And then obviously we talked about trains in our previous episode and how cool it would be to travel across Europe in trains.
Yeah.
Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then check out the links in the description box below for our websites. If you viewers have any topics that you'd like to discuss or like us to discuss, please also leave those in the comment section below. Today, we're going to talk about two things. The first thing is going to be what makes a person wise. Like we always hear stories about the wise man or the wise old lady, but how did they get there? And then the next topic after that, we'll talk about like a digital ID. So I saw that Britain is trying to roll out digital ID. I see other countries looking to kind of roll this out at the same time. Me and Cornelia don't necessarily agree on this one, so that'll be interesting to see what the differences are there. But first, let's go to what makes a person wise. Cornelia, what do you think? How does a person get to be wise?
Um, I've been thinking about this, and I think some people are just born like that. You know that I mean, or born, or they grew up in a family that were like, for example, I know some people who were born in a family of farmers, and they have this authentic wiseness, this normal view over life. And when you think when I'm hearing them talking, it's for me it's like, wow, this is so simple yet so wise. Why didn't I think about it?
Hmm.
Because they have this. My grandma was like this. The one I told you about, she loved to garden and stay outside and take care of the animals and so on. She
Hmm.
had this wiseness. She was born in this kind of family of farmers. They had a lot to do with the nature and with the normal course of life. And then there's the other ones, of course, that are becoming wise by reading, educating themselves. But I feel that it's also something you have to be born with. You have to have something there. Otherwise, no matter how much you learn or educate yourself or read, you won't become wise.
Hmm. So I think you're right. Part of that is the education, right? You have to like build that education. You have to build the knowledge base. You also have to be susceptible to learning. When you are open to like new ideas and new experiences, you can have those and then learn from them and then get that. So that brings me to what I think is how people become wise. And it's by making mistakes and bad decisions and learning
Mhm.
from it,
That's
right?
true. Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we take somebody that's like been like a saint or they've been good their entire life, they may have ways to be good, but they don't really have like a wise mindset because they didn't learn from mistakes because they only made, for the most part, correct choices because nobody is free of making 100% perfect choices all the time or correct choices all the time. So a wise person is usually somebody, in my view, that has made a lot of mistakes and has
Mm.
learned from those mistakes and had a lot of experiences. They could be positive experiences, they could be negative experiences, and even more so. I think that like traumatic experiences really and then really drive home that learning experience um, for some people, right? Like you have to have this ability to learn from
Mhm.
mistakes.
Yeah. So you're saying that the practically the life experience is making us wiser, and I agree with it. That's true. And if I think about myself, how I was 20 years ago and how I am now, I've learned some things. So of course
Mhm.
it happens. But I've been training leaders for a while.
Hmm.
So when you told me you want to talk about this, I've been thinking about them first because you think the leaders must be wise. From all of them I've been training, I've only had one wise leader. The other ones were just trained to perform in an area, and that was all. So when we are talking about education, it's not that education that educates you into something, but it's education about maybe life, reading things about life, dealing with things in life. Because, for example, my grandma, who was growing up in a farm and had a lot of brothers, and she had to take care of them, she had so many things to deal with, and she learned from it. But these wise people that I'm talking about and I admire, they have this way to simplify life so much and to retain out of everything what it's the most important. And sometimes we get lost in these crazy times we are living in, but they are still on that point where the life is so simple. What's really important in life? And I think this is the highest of the wiseness, if it's an expression.
Hmm.
Expression.
So you're talking about like leaders and then how they kind of like come to this. We all look to them because we think they have this wise, like
Mhm. You
outlook on
should.
life. So like that, I mean, that brings into like the age aspect of it, right? So like to be a leader, right? To be where we are now from where we were before, there has to be time that is elapsed,
Sure. Yeah.
right? So in order to you can't how would I put it? It's like in the Matrix, which I'm rewatching the entire original trilogy right now. Great movie trilogy. When Morpheus is like, I can only show you the door, you have to walk through it. So it's almost like unless you go through time, you can't be wise. So nobody is born wise. They may be born with the capacity to become
Yeah.
wise
Hmm.
through life experiences, trauma, whatever, but they have to walk those steps to
Sure.
get to that point, which I think is like
Mhm.
even in the Matrix, that's kind of like the whole. I mean, it's about control, but it's also about like how Neo has to walk this path to be make the choices and to become this thing and to save humans in the movie. But in the real world, how it comes out is you walk through life. Well, first you lay on your back and then you crawl and then you start to walk
Mhm.
and then you run and then you slow down a little bit as you age. But as that happens, you've learned so much that you can recall a previous experience. Somebody comes to you, right? They're like, "Hey, look, this is happening in my life." And you can say, "All right, well, this happened also in my life in a similar fashion. It may not be exactly the same." And then you
Mhm.
can say, okay, well, here's what I did if they're asking, right? And I think that that is also part of how becoming wise happens. So it's generational, not specifically familial, but one person passing down knowledge to somebody else, not necessarily in like an education system, but the experience of life is passed down through shared memories and learning experiences.
Yeah, that's true. Um, so yeah, so let's say, as you said, someone comes to you and asks for an advice, and you try to find something that happened to you at one point, which might be familiar. But there are also people that didn't go through the same experience, but they still have this wiseness to give a good advice. Because I still believe that you have to be born with something there. As you said, the ability of learn, of course, but also you have to have something that the others don't have. So I think that a big part of the wiseness is this even a word in English? Wiseness? I'm keep using it. I'm not
I don't know.
sure.
I don't know if it's actually. I don't know if you're legally allowed to connect wise and
Okay.
this, but I mean, we're going to use it because everybody our viewers are going to know what it means, right? It's
I
like
hope
if
so.
you make up a word and somebody you it sounds right, somebody's going to know what it means, even if it's not in the dictionary.
I mean, they put in the dictionary that stupid word skibidi.
Did
I mean,
they?
yeah, they did.
Oh
You can read
no.
it. Why wouldn't we invent words?
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah, I was saying that you have to, I think you have to have something from birth. Uh, I know many people who are old enough and have enough experience and they're not wise. Many, many people I know. Yeah,
Mm.
so that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I can pinpoint this. Let's see if we can break it down just a little bit more. You're saying that somebody has to be born with something. I'm saying that that has to be the capacity to learn, right? But
Sure,
I
yeah. That's cool.
but maybe let's think about it this way. In order to be wise, somebody has to have the capacity to not just learn, but self-reflect and then
Mhm.
be able to express that outward, right?
Yeah.
Um, the self-reflecting part, I'm I think that's something that's built into the brain for most people. Obviously, not certain people with, dark personality types, but the average person to highly empathetic person has that ability to introspect and self-reflect.
Micah,
Is that
I don't think so.
no?
You know what? Uh, I've been having this conversation with many of my friends. They don't self-reflect. So I think I know 3 or 4 people who are doing it. They just don't, they are just living life without thinking about the day that just gone or what they did or what they should do or how they feel about something. They're just living life normally.
Hmm.
And while I'm judging them, and they know this, I'm judging them for not doing it. At the same time, they are more maybe wise than I am from this point of view, not doing this, because this overthinking is not very good for our minds sometimes. Yeah, so I'm not sure which one is wiser from this point of view.
It could be like a black hole that you dive into if you start to overthink too much.
But yes, it you have to have a certain way of thinking. So if this I'm not sure if this majority of us has this way of thinking, like synthesizing what we're going through. You analyze what you've been through, you get a conclusion out of it, and you just use it next time when you need it. I'm not
Mhm.
sure many of us can do it. I'm not sure.
Well, I
To
mean, we've
be.
mentioned in previous episodes where I've talked about like the narcissism of society, the distractibility, right? And then what you're describing is people just going through life, um,
Hmm.
where ignorance is bliss, where they're just kind of like unaware.
Yeah.
They haven't activated parts of their brain. They're not really introspecting. They're not, they're learning, but it's not in the same depth that somebody that we would consider to be wise has dived into. But
Yeah.
they can offer a different kind of advice, right? So like somebody that doesn't really spend a lot of time self-reflecting, right? Doesn't really spend a lot of time deep diving into their own brain or experiences. They may have advice that is valuable to people that do that, which is, hey, maybe just like you said, don't do that so much because it can become unhealthy.
Hmm.
And then,
Yeah. Yeah. So again, we go to the balance. I'm always
mhm,
talking about being balanced. I think
mhm,
it's important to learn. Maybe I'm wiser in something and they're wiser in something else. But also there is one person that I don't think it's wise for themselves, but for the others, like Jordan Peterson or psychologists who are having so much information. They've been reading so much, they know so many things, they know how the mind works and everything. You go to them, you get a good advice, but they cannot put that advice into their lives. You know what
mhm,
I mean?
mhm.
Yeah, so they are very wise, but when it comes to helping the others, most of the time they cannot help themselves. unfortunately.
Mm. Yeah, that becomes an interesting topic where somebody has like the capacity to guide somebody else, right? And that may not always be like a positive thing. So somebody with the ability or charisma or knowledge of the experience or learned experience and could share to somebody else how to do something, but doesn't do it that way themselves, right? So then
Mhm.
there you bring in that level of hypocrisy, um, which I would say that the advice that they're giving is probably just regurgitated, because if they're not really living it, if they're not living that experience, if they're not living by what they're saying and they're just saying it, actions over words, they're not really wise. They're just repeating information that maybe they've read, learned, or heard, and then are just disseminating it that way.
Yeah. We have a saying in Romania, you say that the carpenter never has furniture. So it's something like that, when they get this knowledge, they can pass it to the others. I'm not sure if it's hypocrisy or it is just um, they are just unable to apply it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which one it is, but I see this in, as I said, Jordan Peterson. He's not able to apply what he's saying to his own life. So then you go to a point where you're thinking, for example, for me, a wise person is an example for me. I'm looking at those person from here to here, and I'm just trying to inspire myself from that person. And then when you see how their life is, and it's like in a different direction from what they're saying, you don't know if it's a good example for you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know so I've been feeling this with Jordan Peterson. I've been reading what he was writing. I've been watching him, and then I found out a lot of things about his life, and then I was, wow, I really was amazed by the difference from what he was preaching and what he was really doing.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's also interesting because like I would say that like I didn't make a big turning point and uh, in my life until after some major traumatic experiences. Now the core personality is built, right in the formative years up till uh, I don't know, I would say 12, through 20, somewhere in there. You're getting, you're building personality, traits, you're still learning and all that. But the core personality is there,
Mhm.
but then you can have like a traumatic experience. Very rare occurrence is that somebody that has a traumatic experience, they have like a personality shift. And I would say that I had that. And
Mhm.
when I look at what you're saying about Jordan Peterson, right? So he's had these life experiences that's completely different from what he's saying, but he's not changing his own life. We've talked about like dark personality traits and how they're very controlling, outwardly expressive of criticism. And and I'm not diagnosing anybody here, but somebody that has the words are different than their actions. They may be hiding something, they may have some control aspect to it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what you're seeing. But it's also cognitive dissonance, right? So
Yeah,
when
exactly.
your brain is trying to put two people into one body and it's having trouble doing that because he's saying one thing over here and he's doing something else over here. So to try to do that, and and I've experienced that like in a relationship where my ex-girlfriend, narcissistic ex-girlfriend, was saying something here and then doing something completely different. And I
Mhm.
had a hard time like putting those two people together. She's saying this thing and she's doing this, but then you realize the actions are the one thing that you really want to pay attention to. I've also noticed that about politicians. A lot of we talked about politicians a lot. The
We
politicians,
will,
they,
and we
you know,
will. We'll keep
But we
talking
think
about
that they're wise, right?
it.
We say like, okay, well, these are leaders, they're elected, but they may be just saying the right thing to get elected, right? And then there's the power play, but they're not actually doing what they're saying. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, so they have different rules that they live by, but they're telling us how to live our lives using their words. Their actions are different from their words, and that just creates a problem.
Yeah, talking about leader, I'm very happy you brought this into discussion about politicians and leaders today. Sometimes I'm watching them and I'm thinking, this it's like they are kids playing around. I'm taking my toys, I'm not talking to you anymore, and then I talk to you again, and I threaten you a little bit, and then you don't talk to me again, and so on. It's like they're kids. You would expect that these times, it's 2025, it's like we live in the future, and you would expect them to be more wise and to
Hmm.
be able to have a conversation and to be able to fix some things, but I feel that the world is going down because they are not capable enough to do it, or they have other interests, or both of them.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and like we want to think that they're wise, but then when they act this way, they don't really come off as
Mm-hmm.
wise. And I'm just like, okay, well, how are we supposed to look up to you? Uh, you know, and we're supposed you're supposed to represent us,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't jive. You know what I mean? And so you're right, like how they're like, I'm not gonna talk to you, I'm gonna talk to you, the back and forth, right?
Yeah.
What I find is interesting is that we can't, as a society, just one country, people of different mindsets get together because that's how governments are run, right? At least
Yeah.
in most places. I think it's an illusion, first of all. But the they get together, but they are not working. They're working towards opposite goals almost. It's like we're not
Mm-hmm.
working towards one goal anymore.
No.
Um, and we're getting we're getting a little bit off being wise, I guess. But I mean, maybe I'm just reflecting back, when I was a kid, we were taught to work together, as a team, even in like school, on school projects, in class, on the playground. I was taught teamwork in the Navy. We're all supposed to be working for one goal, but when I look at the leaders, they're not actually that wise. They're just kind of there, I mean, it's hard to put a finger on it. I think government in itself is like a control scheme. It's supposed to be by the people for the people, at least in the United States. But it seems like the the governments are more controlling the people than the people are controlling the governments now. I think that's also something. So we're going to swing it all the way back around. That makes somebody a wise is that they don't really function in self-serving. Maybe they did at one time, right? Because they made a lot of mistakes. They may have done some really bad things, suffered the consequences of those things, learned from them, but now they see human beings as like a whole. We're trying to bring people together. We're trying to connect. We're trying to make those personal connections. We're trying to help other people, build
Mm-hmm.
people up together rather than divide, conquer, dominate. That's
Yeah.
just a thought.
Yeah, I agree with it. But you reminded me of one of the qualities of being wise. I guess it is to be able to not talk that much and be able to keep yourself to yourself. But I was thinking about Biden. It just didn't work. His silence didn't make him wiser. So it depends on so many aspects to consider someone wise because, for example, Queen Elizabeth, she didn't talk that much. You knew that she's wise.
Hmm.
But Biden, he didn't talk that much, but you knew that he wasn't wise.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I agree with that. And so, like, there's like a phrase, I don't know if you've heard this, but like, usually the loudest person in the room is not the most powerful or is the least powerful.
Hmm.
I have the what is it? The Robert Greene has a book, I think it's called the 48 Laws of Power or Laws of Power or something like that. And in it talks about how like when you speak less, your words carry more weight. And then when you talk slower, it's perception too. When you talk slower, your words are more believed, right? You talk in confidence. You could be lying, but you talk in confidence, you're more likely to believe. And so when I look at that, I'm like, okay, that makes sense because there are people that don't talk a lot that do get a lot of, they may say like one sentence, but with that sentence, they deliver a lot of
That's
weight.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I think that many of the people who are not talking that much, it's better this way because, yes, some of them are wiser than the others, but some of them are just stupid, and it's better to keep their mouth shut. And I had a colleague in the university. He was not talking that much, and all of us we thought he's a very smart guy. Who he was like calculated and controlled like this, like a well put guy. And then when we became more close to him, we realized that he was just stupid. And he made a wise choice to shut up and not
Mm.
talk too much. So maybe
Yeah.
he was wise as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like, and then we look at our podcast, we talk a lot. I talk more than you, and I also talk a lot faster, in some cases.
Yeah,
Um,
that's because you're a native in English. I'm not, so.
um, and then I just wonder, like, do my words, I sit there and do my words carry weight? I mean, do people listen? Do they comprehend? Should I have said it differently? Do I need to
Mhm.
rehearse next? You know what I mean? And then I go into that black hole of
Yeah.
overthinking sometimes, and then I worry about that.
Yeah, I'm at the point where I don't care if I'm wise or not. I'm just me. I just
That's a good
don't care
place to
what
be.
people think anymore. I guess uh, when a woman is getting old, she just doesn't care anymore at one point. And I'm at that point where I don't care. I'm wise, I'm not wise, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be wise, right? It's not something you declare yourself, right? I mean, you
Yes,
can
sure. Yeah, I agree.
experience it because people may come to you for advice, but if you declare yourself wise, then you kind of like
Not. You're
it's just
not.
yeah, it's you know what I mean. It doesn't meet the scale test right there.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that other people have to call you. So I mean, or other people have to see you as wise
Yeah, yeah.
rather than you actually, I can't just I'm not just going to be like, "Oh, I'm wise. I'm so wise." And then, people will just start flocking to me. That's not it. What it is because when somebody shares advice, when they give information, when they share a life experience, when they empathize and sympathize with somebody else, um, and then that makes an impact with that person, then that person tells somebody else that that when they're telling somebody else, that is like your silent accolade. That's your silent. I don't even want to call it like award. It's more like they're they're celebrating you because they're sharing how you help them to somebody else, even if they don't tell you.
Hmm. Yeah, I get what to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to like put that into words, but I was working it out.
Yeah, you did. Let's get to our next topic, which
Absolutely.
is the first one when we don't share the same opinion at all. Let's see if we can convince each other, which I'm not gonna try to convince you of anything. I
Mhm.
promise this. I
Okay.
think you go
You
first
want me
with
to?
it.
Okay. All right, I'll go. All right. So, digital ID. I don't like it. Um,
Yeah.
so we already have, like, in the United States, you got a passport, you got a driver's license, you've got, many different forms of ID. And to add this digital ID, which is basically the same thing as a driver's license, except or a passport, except for they can link it to all of your purchases, all of your travel, your carbon footprint. If they wanted to do that, they could link it to your, um, let's say they wanted to spool up COVID again, and they wanted to do the vaccine travel cards like they were trying to do here, the vaccine passport or whatever. You got to
Yeah.
have your papers to travel. And then they just could tie it to so many things. It's easily corruptible. It's easily controllable. If your carbon footprint isn't good, you don't get to buy gas. If you bought too much beef, you can't buy gas this year or, this week or whatever. So when we look at that, and they're saying that it's supposed to stop migration. Well, Britain, if the Keir Starmer came out and said he wanted this digital ID and it's going to be mandatory, that's how he said it, mandatory. I think it's how the British pronounce it, just kind of like missile. They He said it's going to be mandatory to work
Yeah.
because, but I think they already have like an e-visa, which is also mandatory to work in Britain.
Hmm. They do, yeah.
So it's supposed to stop migration. An ID card that's on a computer isn't going to stop all the boats that are coming up. It's also not going to stop the government who is facilitating the migration or the NGOs. They're just
Hmm.
not going to work, which they already, for the most part, from my understanding, they don't work. They come over, and then they get on public benefits. They don't pay taxes. You know who does pay for it? The British citizens, the
Sure.
hardworking ones, the law-abiding ones, and then that. But what's going to happen if you want to go on vacation, but you don't have a high enough social credit score, which is generally what will come next, and then you can't travel. There's
Yeah.
so many aspects to it that just irritate me. I'm all over the place on it. We've talked
I
about
mean,
it before.
yeah, I agree with everything you said, but they're already doing it. So another one form of control, I don't care about it. Uh, I was naive to think that maybe they could stop migration. I agree with you on this one. They won't, of course. Um, but in the rest, they are already controlling us in so many ways. I don't care if they put in some new form of control. Um, and you know what, Micah? You know why these things are happening? It's because we are not reactioning to it. So we just sit like sheeps and we are waiting for them to control us. They did the COVID thing, we accepted it. We didn't have a choice. Yes, we always have a choice,
Well,
you
they tell
know?
you we're civilized and nobody wants to rise up,
Yeah, we don't want to rise
per
up
se.
because we are not thinking by ourselves anymore. We're just okay, if the whole press is saying that it's not good for us, then we should listen to it. If the whole press and the leaders are saying that we should do this, we should all do this. We're not thinking by ourselves anymore. So when we had COVID in Europe, at least in Denmark, we had this traveling papers which were showing that you had a vaccine. The same with going to school, the same with going to work. If you didn't have it, you had a choice to make a test every single day. So you weren't forced into it, but it was harder for you to go to work, for example, to get those tests every single day, you know?
Hmm.
But we had the third choice, which was not to comply. But we did. And I'm so sorry for it, but we did. So if this digital ID is going to come on the market, it's going to be because we accept it. Any form of control, I don't care which one it is. I don't care about this digital ID. They will control us anyway. If this is what they want to do, they will do it anyway. They're going to find something else. They're going to have a contract with Facebook, with Instagram, I don't know, TikTok, whatever. And they're going to control us anyway. They are controlling us already.
Hmm.
So This one, the digital ID, I think it's just like they're just spending some more money for something that it's already on the market, like controlling population. Yes, they
Okay.
maybe if they are if they really want to, I mean, if they want to make the control stronger, they can use this digital ID,
Mhm.
as you said.
Yeah, I mean, they can definitely, once they have it and it's linked into, your medical, it's linked into your bank account, it's linked into, you know, anything, you know, once they
But
have that in one spot, it's not just about having it all over. They control these in different places. What they're trying to do is centralize it to one specific location. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to be easily corruptible. And what's going to happen is kind of like Canada did. During the COVID, they had that tractor trailer, march on, I don't know where they were going, but they had all these semi trucks and they were
yeah,
blockading and running all over
yeah,
the place. Well, Canada shut down their bank account.
yeah.
And then in America, they debanked conservatives. Um, and when I look at central control like that, if like let's say if I didn't have the vaccine passport, they could lock out my bank account. And then
Mm-hmm.
I can't buy food or I can't buy gas or, they could limit me to buying only at gas stations and at grocery stores. I can't go out and have fun. I couldn't buy a plane ticket. If they, let's say if they want me to only buy from certain pharmacies or, certain drugs, they could stop me from purchasing from, pharmacies that I want. Um, so I see it as a slippery slope. It's like I could see it in a sci-fi movie, right? Just kind of like I see like in sci-fi movies I've seen like where they have like a whole world government, which is what I think that they really want to do. World Economic Forum, and Soros,
But
and I think they're trying to make a world government.
I'm sure they are trying, but they will never do it because who are they going to do one world government? Who are they going to do it with? Are Russia gonna get along with the United States? Are China gonna agree to be? I don't know. Do you think they will agree on something uh, to be in the same place? I don't think so. But let me tell you something. For example, in Denmark, we already have this yellow card who is linked to everything you own. So you have a bank account, you have the car, you have everything, health, everything you have in on this yellow card. So it's already in place and no one is controlling anyone until now. Let's hope it stays like this. So if they go in on your how do you call it, like identity, they can see everything, where you've been, how much gas did you put on the in the car, where did you buy from, everything, what medicine did you get, and so on. So they already have this. I don't
Hmm.
understand. It's like a it's something that they want to spend money on, this digital ID. I don't see the point of it.
Hmm. Well,
At least in Denmark, they already have this kind of system.
hmm well,
I mean,
so I mean
when
that's maybe Europe, maybe in Denmark they have it already, right? And
yeah.
then in, the UK, it's just like who's the next domino to fall to implement this, right? And then once everybody has this digital ID, we can put it, but what happens if it gets hacked? We can't trust the government to keep everything secure. I mean, even ours, one of the most high-tech governments, high-tech intel agencies, we've got, hackers stealing stuff. Google gets hacked, Facebook gets hacked, IDs are stolen, personal information is stolen, not to mention half the crap that they sell. So your government could take the central digital ID and then start selling ads to you or selling your information for ads for revenue or something like that. I see it as
Yeah.
a step towards that world government. And you're right, will Russia, China, Iran, and those countries, like they would be the opposition. So one world government is basically going to start as like, and I think if the Democrats in the United States had won the 2024 election, uh and if Donald Trump hadn't interrupted Hillary's election, and came into office, he was way closer to that. I mean, you've seen now that they're investigating Soros for funneling money into like groups in the United States that are sowing like riots and all these protests and
Yeah.
destabilization techniques. Well, what do you need to do in order to recreate something? You need to destroy what's there first. So
Mhm.
I see this as a step, and Britain's going further. I mean, but the fact of the matter that they're claiming that it's going to stop immigration because you're removing the incentive, they're giving these people money. The incentive is the British government's giving migrants access to their country, access to their citizens, and they're not doing anything to prevent the migrants from hurting their own people, whether it's getting into jobs, whether it's taking taxpayer money without paying into the pool. I mean, the same thing's happening here. Um, we're coming up on the end of like a fiscal year, financial year,
Yeah.
and the Democrats want to shut down the government for money for illegals. These are people that aren't in the country legally, and they should not get access to the benefits that I pay into. Same thing with the Brits. They should,
Mhm.
the Brits' money, the taxes that they are collecting from those people should go back to those people, for those people, not for the migrants that our governments. Look, Britain moved people into their country. NGOs were getting funded through USAID, moving people into countries.
Yeah.
And the Democrats were doing it for the last 4 years. Massive spike in illegal migration. They weren't stopping people, they were just letting them in. Why? Putting them on benefits. Why?
To vote, probably.
Well, there's
Most
that, but
probably.
then we could also destabilize if we don't prosecute these people for crimes. We can destabilize because we will only prosecute people that fight back against those people. And then what? You're looking more and more towards like what I would call like a global commie government.
Yeah. I think it depends on us, how we vote. If the vote is considered safe, still considered safe and real, and to oppose when something like this happens. Um, there's been so many things that happened in the last years, and we didn't oppose with anything. I mean, maybe there's been. Have you seen that Google said that the Biden administration forced them into not putting in the news the ones that were against COVID?
Mm-hmm.
So they said. So that's where everything starts from. Like Google didn't have the power to say no.
To the government.
Facebook, what?
No, yeah, Google, Facebook,
Yeah,
they
Facebook.
were
Yeah.
all being
Anyway,
told to censor people by the government, which is not how it's supposed to work.
yeah, exactly. And they said yes. They didn't say no.
Hmm.
We are still using those. I'm using it. You're using. Everyone is still using Google. We are still using Facebook and so on. So we shouldn't. Like in an ideal world, we shouldn't. We should make amends. We should um, show that we disagree with these kind of things, but we are not doing it because we are sheeps. These days we are sheeps. We are just, and I feel that no matter what we are doing, nothing is gonna change.
Hmm.
They're gonna get to the point where they want. And talking about you're talking about Soros. So then I was hoping he's old and he's gonna die, and then I found out he's got a son, and he's worse than the father. And then the son is pretty old as well. Maybe he's gonna die soon. But the son has a son as well, so we're not gonna get rid of this family because indeed the Soros family, at least in Romania, they've done a lot of bad things. And Soros was the first person to step in our country after the communism. He was the first one who came. I don't think the bodies were cold; they were still warm, and he was on the streets trying to see how he can control this country, you know. And he
Hmm.
did. He's still doing it sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. And then so we've kind of dipped into like how easy it is to corrupt, a government. So tell me
Yeah.
let's switch back to the digital ID. What do you think are the benefits of having the digital ID? It's definitely not to stop, migration. So what would be your, I don't know, top three benefits for digital ID?
I don't see any. This is why I'm saying it's useless. And this is why I don't care. So it's useless. It's something useless. It doesn't have any benefits. And for the moment, until we find out that they want to control us more, they don't have any benefits for them in regarding this control either. So it's something that it's useless. Just more money spent. I've seen so many homeless mothers in UK with the kids on the streets trying to get by, trying to get a second job. They just don't have money, and they want to do this. It's like it's such a big difference in how we view the world and how they are viewing the world. Our only chance is to vote, not comply. I don't see any use of this digital ID. If it's gonna be like you're saying, it's gonna be 50-50. The fault is gonna be 50-50 with us, shared with us, because we
Mhm.
don't say, I mean, we just stay with saying we're not doing anything to stop them. And I think this is something that we forgot to be, like to be activists for real,
Mhm.
to go out and gather people and say what we feel. And they learn how to ignore the people who are doing it or to punish them, as you said about Canada. It happened in Germany as well, in here. So when
Mhm.
they went out on the streets, the press didn't talk about it. So we only found out in on different channels. And yeah, they've been forced to. I mean, their bank accounts were closed until they decided to go back to their homes.
Yeah. So,
It shouldn't it have been different if if I'm talking only about me. I found out that this happened and I stayed in the house.
mm,
I didn't do anything about it. I just accepted, okay. Oh wow, those poor farmers. Oh, poor them. That was all I've done.
okay.
So
So,
yeah.
okay. So you don't care if they implement the digital ID. I'm absolutely against it in terms of what I predict will happen because I know human nature, and we've seen it, right? So when we incentivize, I think we just talked about this. If you incentivize bad behavior, you've got 70% of the population that 8 out of 10 times, and you say probably more, would make the choice to be corrupt. So implement a digital ID, you've got, a very high chance of people using it for coercion and control. Coercive control is like a term to control people, financial control. I mean, you've got control of the food, you got control of the banks, you got control of the gas, you got control of travel. And we've talked about in a previous episode moving away from people. You can't, and even now, there's no place really on earth that we can go where we can just move away from people we really, really disagree with, right? So in the United States, you can move from one state to a next, but it still falls under the umbrella of the federal
Yeah.
government, right? Same
Hmm.
thing probably in Romania and Denmark and Europe. You can't go someplace, you can't move away, but you're still controlled by, like the laws. And I'm not saying we should like revolt against our governments, but we are so docile. And I think it comes from I think we talked about this too, like how testosterone levels in males have dropped. And I think it's
Hmm.
also in like the food-like substances, the chemicals, but also convenience. We're not needing to run anymore. We talked about that.
Yeah.
We don't need, as much. We don't need to fight for survival anymore. We don't need to go hunt for food with our bare hands and teeth. So you see this drop in testosterone, but then you also see like the de-evolution of society. We've talked about that. We've talked about like the trans argument. And so when I look at that, easily corruptible, right? Easily changed. The testosterone levels drop, which means that we are not standing up for ourselves as much because we don't really see a way to do it. We're told that it's through, at least in the United States, that it's through the court system, through words, through legislation. But when there's so much more control above you, how can you, without having, hundreds of thousands of dollars for legal fees or whatever, to bring it? You know what I mean? The average
Yeah.
American cannot bring
Mm.
most redresses they have to the government. And when they did, right? So in the last administration, when they were bringing it to school board meetings, when they were, worried about COVID and they were talking about it on platforms, they were getting debanked, they were getting censored, they were getting permabanned, they were getting, flagged by, all of these agencies, either from the government to the agencies, or the agencies were flagging them and just getting them before the government could get to them. And so central digital ID will be corrupted. There's no doubt. Because if you look at our government, what it was supposed to be based off of the Constitution, it's not that anymore. They say it is, but it's not. You've got laws on laws on laws. You haven't erased old laws. You've got way more and more control. It's almost like our governments are trying to, same thing. British is trying to implement this
Mm.
digital ID. They're trying to create regulations to control the population. What they're saying is for safety. And then, in some people's mind, that may be what they're actually trying to do. They're trying to make things more convenient. They're trying to make things more safe. They're trying to do this. But what happens is it's under the guise of safety, under the umbrella of safety, that most corruption takes place.
Yeah, it's very dystopic. And yeah, I don't necessarily, I'm not able to imagine such a future. But if it happens, I repeat myself, it's gonna be because we are not we don't have reactions. You said we should, or we don't say that people should revolt. Okay, let's say we shouldn't say it, but we should revolt. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to fight for what you care about. If you care about your freedom, fight for it. I don't
Hmm.
really care about my freedom so much in the matters of. I mean, I would care if they don't allow me to travel or to do whatever I want in my like my square. You know, I'm not trying to change the world. I'm just leave me alone in my square. As long as
Yeah.
you're leaving me alone in my square, just it's fine for me. But as long as you're trying to, like you said about the carbon print, what's this? I mean, why would they check our carbon prints, calculate it or whatever? Do you realize how much money this cost to have a system who is gathering all the data about you and just say this is your carbon print, and then you punish me for it if it's too big or too small or whatever? This is a dystopian future I don't want to think about. It's like we're gonna be crazy. And just like you said in those sci-fi movies where the people are becoming slaves and there are elites that are running everything. I don't want to think about us allowing this to happen.
Hmm. Hmm. And
But we will.
so
So
the hard
if
part is
this is
how to
what they
figure out
want,
how to fight back.
yeah. I was trying to say that if this is what they want to do with this digital ID, it's gonna happen like you said. If this is what they want to do, because we won't react, because we're gonna be afraid for our families. We don't feel that strong as before. I mean, the men before they used to fight for freedom. You know, they don't fight for
Mhm.
freedom anymore.
Too busy.
Um, too busy on TikTok, whatever. Yeah. So we don't we think about you we became like you said earlier in the other topic, we are not together on the same goal anymore. Everyone is for themselves, my family, and that's all I care about, you know?
Hmm.
We're
The
not
hard part is
united.
figuring out how to fight back against that
Yeah.
overreaching control if it's already in place, because you could stand up, and it's just like if and typically what you'll see in a narcissistic relationship is a person that is pointing, like they're breaking down, they seem mentally unstable, they're crying, they're proclaiming abuse, they're saying somebody's abusing, and nobody's believing them. You would see all these people looking at the whoever's standing up as the problem. And the flip could be said, because I'm not advocating for this, but like Antifa, it creates a lot of problems, right? So we
Mhm.
look at them
Yeah.
as bad. They see themselves as freedom fighters. So I mean, it's hard to find, and that's what I'm saying. It's like we're all not working towards the same goal
Yeah,
as a species
I
anymore. We're
agree.
kind of, I mean, maybe we never did. Maybe we were destined to be corrupt, and I think that's why I don't really look to religion for that, but like I have a moral compass, and I look towards the better parts of humanity, um, in an effort to have hope that if things get bad enough and the control starts to clamp down, that we won't be like those dystopian movies that I see, where there's the elites or the government that's in control or something like that. I think what's the movie V for Vendetta is based in the UK. Um, I think that's a great movie. I'm not advocating for that kind of action, but what I'm saying is that and I've talked about this to somebody else, uh, when you have a reaction or a uprising, or maybe it's a small pocket that starts speaking up, what you're seeing is a reaction to control in some way, what they perceive as control in some way. So a rise up against control, you know, it it would happen if the control got too great.
Yeah. Um, this rise up for control, it should be made on the same ideas and morals about life. And while we were talking about it, I was thinking how different things were before. And even though we didn't have these communication tools that we have today, we were more united back then. I don't know how. I don't know why. I mean, at least in Romania, people were coming together for a goal. Even
Mhm.
when the communists came, the people of Romania wanted the communists because they thought it's a great thing, and they fought for it. And then when they realized that it's not like that, again, they fought for stopping it, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we didn't have these communication tools, but if you saw three, four people in the street, everyone would go and fight for the same goal. These days, we're not doing it anymore, not even with a vote. And think about how many people do you know that go to vote informed.
Mhm.
Everyone was talking about like transgender and this ideology and this and that. What about the program, the real programs that are presenting to us? They're not even doing it anymore because they're just selling these superficial topics. We get to have fights over it, and they're doing what they want, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, either way, it looks like digital ID is going to be here to stay. It looks like
Yeah.
it's going to
I think
spread.
so.
And so I think that's unfortunate, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to see if it's as you said, and I'm gonna try to prepare for it. I don't know how, but I'm gonna try to prepare for it, even though I don't believe it. So
We'll see.
we have to be ready for everything and anything these days.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us on another episode of Life Chronicles and Deep Dives podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then check out our links in the description box below for our website. Don't forget to leave us any comments, questions, concerns in the comment section. Also, I got a new studio set up here. Last note. And so I'm in my yoga studio. I have like a hot yoga. It's a spare bedroom. I turned it into my wife turned it into a hot yoga studio. But then she's like, "Oh, why don't we move your desk in here?" And then, it's got this ring light, and, I got the camera now and the mic. And so I'm hoping that this setup will be a little bit better, as we are always trying to deliver better quality. I'm hoping this video, will also deliver better quality, because before we were using the free version of this program. Now I've paid for it, and I'm hoping that it will pay off because it allows for HD recording. So Cornelia doesn't have to do so much work in post.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks great, your new studio. I love it.
Well, thank you. And thank you to all our viewers, and we'll see you next time. Bye.